G'day and welcome to ReDriven. Now, if the Subaru SUV range was a family of siblings, the Outback would be the eldest, most mature one, the XV would be the youngest one, and the Forester would be the middle child. But does it suffer from middle child syndrome? Now that this generation Forester is getting pretty old, how are they handling their mature age? And in many cases, more than 200,000 kilometers on the clock. Are they still any good? What do they cost to own and maintain? What goes wrong with them? Can you live with them on a daily basis? And most importantly, should you buy one? Let's find out. Before we get stuck into the Forester, can you please do us a favor and hit those like, subscribe and bell icon buttons, and after the video, go and follow us on all the socials. Now, this is the second generation Forester that was available from 2003 to 2008, and in 2005 it received a pretty substantial facelift with new aesthetics and some extra mechanical and technical bits and pieces. And look, in this video we will be focusing on the Australian variants of the second gen Forester, but if you're not from Australia, don't freak out, don't panic, because everything we're going to be going over should relate to Foresters in your local market. The Forester was available in primarily three different trim levels: the naturally aspirated X and XS and the turbocharged XT. However, various special editions joined the range from time to time, and then there was the very, very special import-only performance-orientated STI version. And look, while we'd love to go into every graphic detail of every variant of Forester, that would just take far too long. The video would end up going for hours, but we have gathered all that information and we put it in our handy ReDriven cheat sheets. Our cheat sheets are invaluable as they provide a full breakdown of the car's model range, its common problems, what you need to look out for before handing over your hard-earned cash, how much of that cash you should be handing over, and so much more. Check it out at redriven.com or in the link below. Now look, if you own a Forester or you're a Forester expert and you notice that we've missed something in this video, please let us know in the comments section below. We're doing our best to cover everything in it, but we generally find that those that own these cars are the real experts. So yeah, if we miss anything, let us know. So does it look good? All right, well, look, obviously looks are subjective. Personally, I like the pre-facelift version of this. I feel like it looks a little bit more aggressive. This front end kind of looks a bit like, a bit sort of shocked. Overall, but size-wise, you kind of forget how small these are, like especially even versus the newer Foresters. This is kind of, it's like small and squat and chunky. I like the size of it. Now, like many Subaru Foresters, this one is owned by a mountain biker, hence the bike rack on the roof. That is not a standard Subaru part. Now, as far as issues and problems, there are a few things to look out for. Because of the age of these, how long they've been around, it's really important to look for any signs of abuse or any damage. First of all, check all the panel gaps around the entire car, but especially around the bonnet, because if these have even a minor impact at the front, the bonnet can kind of pop up so it looks like it's open, even when it's actually technically shut. After that, check the paint. Make sure that it's consistent, both in color and texture across the whole car. Also with the paint on these, like they're wearing pretty well as long as they've been cared for, like polished and washed regularly and garaged. This one's got a few little discrepancies here and there in paint because it does spend most of its life outdoors, but overall wear and tear, as long as it's been maintained well, it's pretty good. Also, make sure you get underneath and check for signs of damage and abuse under there. A lot of these do go off-roading and they can cop a bit of a flogging under there. Check for any excess fluid as well, any oil leaks, any suspension leaks. Go right through the steering components and suspension components, and again, I can't say it enough, just look for signs of damage and abuse. Now, many of these headlights can kind of get milky like this, and in this case, fill with condensation. Look, it's a pretty cheap and inexpensive fix, but an easier option might be just replacing the headlight with either an OEM unit or an aftermarket option. Now the big R word, rust. Look, here in Australia, we don't cop a lot of rust issues with these, but if the Forester you're looking at is located near the coast or near snow and it's exposed to mud, moisture and salt on the regular, rust can be an issue. Check the seals, the top of the strut mounts and all around the wheel arches. If you see any signs of rust, just bid the seller farewell and walk away. So how's the interior? Well, look, from a design aspect, it is aging. It's getting a bit long in the tooth. I do love this kind of textured black finish across here, but I'm not so sure about how I don't know what the color that even is. It's like light mushroom gray kind of corresponds with the silver center console. It's feeling a little bit old. As far as wear and tear goes, it's not too bad because there's like almost no squidge. Like all the plastics are quite hard. Even the bits that are kind of squidgy aren't that squidgy. Wear and tear's pretty good. Like there's some wear and tear on the fabric on the armrest here. The plastic steering wheel is feeling pretty old and Yeah, getting a bit slightly gross. The vinyl's getting a bit shiny here. There's a few little scratches here and there. The seats are actually aging pretty well, although that's not ideal. It's not actually attached to the car all that nicely. Oh, and the side bolsters are getting a bit squidgy. But besides that, wear and tear, it's 16 years old. It's got more than 200,000 Ks on it. The guy that owns it is a pretty hardcore mountain biker. For the level of abuse this cops, it's aging pretty well. One thing to check, and it's probably not going to happen, but just check for any signs of water damage, because some of these do get, adventured off-road and might plough through a creek bed or two. Just make sure there's no water damage. Check down low, check the carpets, check the speaker grills, bottoms of the doors for any sign of unwanted water. In the back seat, it's actually not too bad. This is in my driving position. I'm 6'2". There's a decent amount of room. Okay, my knees are rubbing up against the back of the seat a little bit, but heaps of foot room, heaps of headroom. Because the glass house is really large, it feels kind of spacious and airy back here. Quite nice. And as far as wear and tear goes, this guy has a child, and the child is back here all the time, and you'd never know. Like, there's no real signs of abuse. Well-behaved kid, that's for sure, but also wear and tear, really good. So how's the tech? Well, if the Forester you're looking at is completely standard, the tech isn't great. The levels of tech did vary a little between years and trim models. However, look, none of it was great. There's no Bluetooth, no reversing camera or parking sensors, obviously no Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, or really any phone connectivity at all. However, like the wonderful gentleman that owns this car, if you do want Bluetooth connectivity and phone connectivity, go and fit an aftermarket head unit. Also, if you want Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, because it's a double DIN fascia size unit, you can actually find head units that have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto for that size. Is it practical? Well, yes, back here it's capacious, and it has more cubby holes and trapdoors than a car that has less cubby holes and trapdoors than this. Practicality in the back seat isn't too bad. You've got a map pocket back here, or a fish holder because it's a net. You've got a couple little spots in the doors for things, but this is ingenious. Number one, 2 cup holders down here, that's fantastic. But then if you flip the armrest over, you think, hey, there's only 1 cup holder. No, slide this back, another cup holder. There's actually 7 cup holders in this car, which is more than the amount of people you can fit in it. And practicality up front is actually really, really good, although the owner of this particular car refuses to play by the rules, because even though it has 2 spots for sunglasses up there, he's put his sunglasses cases in this console up there, but then the actual sunglasses are under the stereo here. Mate, what are you doing? There's allocated spots for that, not there. Anyway, besides that, you've got a spot for smoking. Gross. 2 cup holders here. You've got a little spot down here for cards and things. Another little storage cubby hole down there. You've got door bins that have got nets on them, so it's good if you go fishing, you've got somewhere to put your fish, but they don't stretch out that far, so it's hard to fit like a large water bottle down there. There's a little net down here, and also a pretty good sized glove box. Also, this brilliant little cup holder that flips out. Look at that, how good's that? So what goes wrong with these? Well, they're Japanese, so surely nothing goes wrong with them. Although they are Subarus, and Subarus do have a couple of funny reputations when it comes to things going wrong under the bonnet. But I'm not a mechanic, I'm not qualified to tell you about them, but Jim is.
This model Subaru is overall fairly reliable. It does, however, share a lot of its problems with the wider Subaru family. These things are renowned for head gasket issues, and it can cost a couple of grand to fix. And and sometimes if the car's only worth 5 or 6 grand, a lot of people don't worry about it and just scrap the car. If you're looking at one and the back end of it sitting down low, like it's sagged in the back end, it's going to need re-struts. Now, this is the self-leveling models we're talking about, and you can't buy those struts anymore, so you've got to put a whole strut and spring assembly out of a later model Subaru to get it to sit up at the normal height, and it can be over $1,000 to do that. Another thing to look out for is the major service on these things is due every 100,000 Ks. We're talking timing belt, spark plugs, driveline oils, and it can cost well over $1,000. And a lot of people sell them when that's due, so just check that out. Besides that, at about 200,000 Ks, the automatic transmissions just blow up, so watch out for that. Even though that sounds like a whole lot of doom and gloom, basically they're a fairly good, reliable, cheap car.
Is it safe? Well, look, it does have Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive system, so that inherently feels safe and stable on the road. And it does have ABS and some airbags, but the pre-facelift version of these only got a 4-star ANCAP safety rating, and even the post-facelift got a 5-star, but that was way back in 2005, 2006, and Hollaback Girl was #1 back then, so it's kind of safe. So, what's it like to drive? Well, it kind of feels like driving a funky little truck. Like it doesn't feel like other SUVs or cars. It doesn't feel utilitarian. It's just got its kind of own charm and charisma going on. Okay, as far as suspension goes, it's pretty good. Like the rear struts have definitely seen better days, so it's a little bit squelchy in the bum, just a touch. But it soaks up bumps really nicely. There's no sort of harsh hits. It does get a little floaty and pitchy if you start kind of getting a bit dynamic, but if you want to get dynamic with one of these, get an XT or an STI variant, not one of these, because it does pitch and roll a touch. But overall suspension, pretty good. Engine performance-wise is okay. Like it's definitely nothing on the fire-breathing STIs or even the slightly warm-breathed XTs, but still, yeah, it's respectable. That's not embarrassingly slow. It's good, it does the job. The sound of the engine is quite nice. A lot of SUVs sort of in this class, when you rev them out, they just get a bit like, but this one actually, yeah, it's got that kind of throbby, flat four, bit of a growl to it. Gives it a bit of character, a bit of a voice. Now actually, speaking about giving it full throttle, when you take one for a test drive, make sure you do give it 100% throttle and look for any smoke coming out the back. Any coloured smoke is bad news. If there's lots of smoke out the back, just bid the seller a farewell and move on with your day. Also when you're test driving, make sure you go over some bumps and curves and try to get a bit of articulation in the suspension and listen for any mechanical sounds like clunks or grinding or just horrible mechanical sounds. Some light creaks and rattles interior wise, that's to be expected with a car this age, but if the suspension and drivetrain are making some horrible noises, again, just walk away. Make sure the gearbox, if it's a manual or an automatic, is smooth with its shifts and feels accurate and shifts quite quickly. Same with the manual, make sure it feels nice to use. Again, it shouldn't be delayed or clunky or horrible. I can't say this enough. If it doesn't feel right or if it sounds like there's something mechanically going wrong, just walk away. Also, these things can go properly off-road. Like obviously, look, it's not a Jeep Wrangler or an FJ Cruiser by any means, but fit some all-terrains and maybe jack up the suspension just a little bit, and these things, they're properly capable. The steering is, yeah, incredibly light and pretty vague. There's almost no communication between the wheel and the front wheels. Not a major negative. It's easy to park. Speaking of easy to park, the vision out of this is excellent. Because the glass house is quite large, judging the parameters of the vehicle is super easy. And because it's like smaller in size, you're getting down like any tight alleyways, driveways, into tight car parking spots, absolute breeze. On the freeway, there is a fair bit of wind noise from the pillarless doors and sort of from the mirrors as well. There's, yeah, a bit of wind and road noise. And look, yeah, there are some rattles and creaks, but this thing's getting old. It's got more than 200,000 Ks on it. I think you've got to expect some kind of internal noises. But honestly, it just feels rugged. Look, overall, it just feels like a solid workhorse of a car, yet it's still super comfy and easy to use, especially around town. I can't say this enough. Because of the size, it's a breeze to work in metropolitan areas. Plus, it gives you that peace of mind that if you do want to go off-roading, if you do want to go mountain biking like the owner of this car, or go camping, it'll pretty much take you anywhere. Not anywhere, not rock crawling, but you want to go off-road, it'll do the job. Pricing here in Australia kicks off from as low as $2,500 for these things. Although at that price, it's going to have a stack of kilometres on it, it's probably going to be riddled with issues and it's going to be in pretty horrible condition. At the other end of the spectrum, you're going to be looking between, say, $16,000 to $19,000 for a top spec, mint condition, perfect example. Something like this car, a 2006 mid-spec XS with over 200,000 kilometres on it, going to be looking at around about $7,500. But if you really want something special, the STI variants of these are now available in Australia, and they go from $25,000 to $45,000. Now, Subarus can be notoriously thirsty, and they have a claimed fuel consumption of anywhere between 8.8 to 11.1 litres per 100 Ks. But on this test, with this car, we're seeing figures over 16. Subaru offered a 3-year unlimited kilometre warranty on all of these Foresters, which is obviously well and truly over by now. And servicing is recommended at a very regular, every 6 months or 12,500 kilometres. However, as many Subaru models share parts across multiple platforms, the cost of parts and the labour to put them in shouldn't cost too much money. But as these are getting old and they're getting heaps of kilometres on them, some problems can end up being catastrophic. So should you buy one? Well, look, it depends on the Forester you're looking at. If you find a Forester with a full and thorough service history, in excellent condition, preferably with low kilometres, being sold by someone that seems honest and trustworthy, yes, you should buy one. Look, the right Forester is just a bloody great car, and we can't say this enough. If it's been maintained and looked after correctly, it should be super reliable. However, if the Forester you're looking at has minimal or no service history, it's covered in red flags, has clearly been abused, and the person selling it seems even slightly dodgy, no, do not buy it. Yes, these are super affordable now, but let's say you pay $8,000 for one, and then a couple of months later, it starts developing some major mechanical issues because you didn't inspect it properly in the first place. The price to repair it may delve into the thousands of dollars, and spending thousands of dollars to repair a car worth $8,000 just doesn't make any sense. Find the right one, get it inspected by your local licensed mechanic, and you should be onto a good thing. Thank you so much for watching, and hey, what did you think of the Forester? Let us know in the comments section below. And hey, can you also do us a favor and hit those like, subscribe, and bell icon buttons, and go and follow us on all the socials. See you next time. Would be the middle child, but does the Forester, they're so close. Now, as far as issues and things to watch out for, there are a few things you need to be on the, no, that was terrible, or near snow, or if it's been, exposed. Near the coast or near snow and it's exposed. I can't remember the word exposed. Rust. Look, here in Australia, me. Here we go. If you see any signs of rust, just bid the. Here we go. If you see any signs of rust, just bid the fellow at. Me. Okay, here we go. The cost of parts and the labour to fit them shouldn't. So should you buy one? Well, actually, look, it looks, how did I get that wrong? Okay, yeah. What did you think of the Forester? Let us know in the comments section below. And remember, okay, here we go. Okay, here we go.